into Syria?
For sure, at least according to the German law, and we are really proud about this law, it will not be possible that a single one will be released from Germany without at least a German court decision. And I believe, at least in my government, also into our court system, into our law system, and for sure, in case we have a small doubt that something will happen to someone, we are not going to release it until today. And at least we finalized this contract in July 2008. According to my knowledge, till today, we didn't release
not a single Syrian has been returned.
Not yet, not yet, and for sure it will not be.
Can I ask you this question now? Has the Syrian government applied to the German government for the repatriation of any individuals, and it's still under consideration by the German government, or they have not made any approaches yet, they have not asked?
I don't have those numbers, and I don't have the knowledge about it, but I can imagine that at least because of also the regime in Syria, that there is a high interest at least to get a lot of people from the opposition in Germany, maybe back to Syria, and this I think it's very important to avoid.
We have examples of Syrian individuals who returned willingly to visit their relatives after getting prior approval from the embassy in the country where they came from, saying to them, it's okay, you can go back to Syria, no problem. And when he reaches the airport at Damascus, he gets arrested, beaten and tortured. And the case of a guy called Maher Arar, he's a Canadian of Syrian origin. He was arrested, tortured, and then it created a diplomatic row between Syria and Canada. And the case is still has not been finalized yet. So Syria's record on human rights is not something to be proud of.
I agree 100%, because this is exactly also according to my knowledge, and therefore I'm here. This is also the very, very important thing for television channels like A.N.N. At least you are independent, and at least A.N.N. is the only channel with the right of the free speech, and this is very, very important in Germany. And therefore I think it's very important to open up those matters also in a broad discussion between also German politicians, and maybe also to build something like a bridge between politicians of Syria and also of Germany, and for sure including also the opposition.
I'm going to a point that relates to Article 8, which you mentioned earlier. This agreement is not intended to violate any international convention like the Geneva Convention for 1951 concerning the legal status of refugees, also the Protocol of New York in 1967. But do you trust Syria to respect these conventions and these international agreements?
In that case, I can tell you only my personal meaning. Personally, I have many doubts.
Well, that's an understatement. Thank you. You have many doubts.
Many doubts.
Somebody might say, why?
Because at least in the past I've been also a few times to Syria as a private person.
Right.
And till today I have quite good contacts also with some friends in Syria. I'm getting also a lot of information from Syrian people living in Germany, in England, in other countries. And therefore I'm getting more and more approvals that at least this international standard of being a democratic country, that Syria is far away of having this standard today.
Fine. Article 9 now. Article 9 is another one that is controversial in my view. It talks about cooperation and exchange of information. The way it is worded, you come to the conclusion It's like exchange of intelligence information about terrorists, not about citizens seeking work. A poor guy come from Syria, he ends up in Germany looking for work. Maybe he wants to eat.
Yeah.
And then he, according to Article 9, he's a potential terrorist. It doesn't say so, but the exchange of information between intelligence services indicates there is some agenda, some hidden agenda somewhere that is going to affect many Syrian individuals who are totally innocent. I mean, they might not have the right paperwork, they might not have the permit to work, but they are not guilty of any un-German activities. They come into work. Now this clause really indicates that there's some hidden agenda somewhere. Can you comment on that?
Again, and this is always the major topic. Such a contract between countries who are keeping the human rights 100%, not in written notice, but also in the real life. In that case, such a contract is a beautiful thing for international relationship. But this, the base for it, to fill it with real life, is that at least both partners, that means in that case Syria and Germany, will be on the same democratic level. And out of my personal doubts, I believe that for sure it will take a very, very long time, a very, very long time, also for Syria to understand keeping at least the international standard, trying at least to find a way into a democracy, and maybe Syria is slightly on the way to democracy. But it will be
with due respect, that's an optimistic assumption.
Sure. But I'm always an optimistic person.
Good. Now, don't you think this agreement does give Syria the green light to pursue opposition people in Europe, particularly in Germany? Therefore, there is a political agenda there, and I don't know why the German government did not ask probing questions to say, what do you want from this agreement? This agreement is between democracies, between countries that respect human rights, that respect international agreements. I mean, not only a few years ago, Syria was a country considered to be a rogue state, and now it is a respected country because of this agreement?
For my opinion, I'm always an optimistic guy, and I believe in futures. And let's put it in that way. This might be the first step also for Syria to do the first steps to prove also the European community that in the near future or in the far future, Syria will be a member of the international democratic countries. So when Germany starts now with this contract, and as I told you in the beginning, this contract is not unique, it's a regular contract between countries of democracy.